Okay, so welcome to both of you. Nice to have you back, Kim, in the Zoom room for another Art of Letting Go live session. Let's have a dive into our quote for today, which is a really short, sweet one, but incredibly insightful, actually. It's the most insightful sentence on the human condition, short sentence that I've ever come across. Great description of the human condition. So let's have a look at that. I'll share my screen with you if you can read the quote. For us, Kim, that'd be great. This is from Eckhart Tolle. Said, yeah, really, really lovely, succinct, accurate summary of what the human condition is.
The human condition lost in thought.
Yeah, and then you see a lady. Actually, she's in quite a nice background there, but just lost in her own thoughts, going internally. We've all been there. It's like just loads of stuff going on internally and actually just lost in your own mind and are not aware of the present moment and
Definitely.
whatever else is arising in the present. Just lost in your own thought, and this is common. This is the human condition. This is what most people call normal. I'm lost in the past thoughts about the past thoughts about the future, in this dream world, really, just in a world of thought, and not really present. Missing a lot of my life in the present moment because of that. Leads us beautifully into today's workbook lesson and our other mind training material. It's what I was trying to do with the quotes, if you notice, sort of there's a theme. So in today's recorded discussion and meditation, we talked about the map of consciousness developed by David Hawkins, which is pictured below. And if we look at fear and desire, we notice that these are the emotions that take us out of the present, right? As soon as you go into desire, you're in or fear, you're in the future, and they're based on the past. So notice this in this map of consciousness, the very lowest levels are all about the past. From 20, shame, guilt, apathy, grief. These are all past-based emotions and states, right? I'm feeling grief over the past. I'm feeling apathetic because I've been disappointed in the past, and so I'm in despair. I'm feeling guilty over something I've done in the past. I'm feeling shame because of my past, yeah? All past-oriented. And then at 100, there's kind of a mini breakthrough because you actually get into the future. And at least in the future, things can change. In the past, nothing can change. So that's why it's a higher energy, although it's still negative. So fear is looking ahead to the future and going, what's going to happen? I'm fearful. I'm not in control of this or that. Future looks very uncertain, and I've got all this anxiety going on about it because I'm trying to get some kind of stability and security in the future, and there is none. And then 125 is desire. So that's desire for something else, to say, okay, well, I could do this, I could have this, and that's a future focus. And so one day when I get my desire, then I'll be in a better state. And so happiness is always in the future. And so these are ultimately negative states, although they're more positive than being stuck in the past. They move you still out of the now and away from the truth. And then you need to let go of both the past and the future focus to start really coming into the present moment. When you hit 200 and above, you're starting to move, much more into the present moment. Courage is the courage to face your fears and your anxiety and your grief and your despair and whatever else, and say, okay, I'll face it right now. I'll be very present, and I'm going to let it go right now, which leads you naturally up this ladder into forgiveness, which is the necessary precursor to understanding or wisdom. And that underpins these higher states of love, joy, and peace, and ultimately enlightenment, the ineffable bliss. So it's a journey. It's a ladder that we climb to go up these states, and we want to stay ultimately in as high a state as possible. So our general state is, as high as it possibly can be. Maybe sometimes we'll dip down into these lower states, but we don't stay there very long because they feel terrible by comparison with the higher states. So you choose to go back to the higher states. Okay, so does that scale make sense? Yeah. As I said, any state calibrating below the level of 200 on the scale is destructive or negative of life. Okay, so I say it as negative. This is what we call negative, but that's kind of become a cliche. So it's negative. If you say it in that way, it emphasizes the real meaning of it. It negates life, which is then leads to death. So fear and desire are both negative states that we need to transcend. And we transcend them by letting them go, and that bounces us up into the higher levels above 200. What they do is they reinforce the ego's belief in scarcity, and they block abundance from flowing into our lives, because they make us believe that we aren't satisfied now and can only be satisfied in the future. When we achieve our illusory desires, while simultaneously reinforcing the fear of not getting what we desire and remaining in our current perceived state of lack. So this is how fear and desire works. I want something, but I fear that I won't have it. And so I'm really in the future. I'm not in the now. I can't be grateful for what is now because all of my attention is now in the future. And this is what we have to recognize and let go of in order to be fully present. By contrast, the ego strategy will never bring us true fulfillment or happiness. The Holy Spirit, or remembrance of love, teaches us to give thanks for what we already have, even if our circumstances on the level of form don't seem to warrant gratitude. This attitude of gratitude tends to create circumstances in our lives for which we can be even more grateful, because positive energy always creates more of itself in the same way as negative energy does. So gratitude, you were talking about that earlier, Kim, helps us to surrender more to spirit and allow ourselves to be done through. As well known, as David Hoffmeister calls it, to be done through. So we had this conversation earlier, didn't we? Like just saying, the whole lesson and message of this course is to allow yourself to be done through, i.e., it is full transfer of training. You're letting go in every moment, in every situation in your life, in every area of your life. You're letting go to the same extent. So gratitude helps us to surrender to spirit. It allows us to be done through in this way, to be grateful for whatever unfolds in our lives and the abundance that is showing up for us in every present moment. And this brings to mind the story of a Zen master and a student at a Zen monastery that I heard Eckhart Tolle telling recently in one of his YouTube videos. So, story goes that the student, who was leaving the monastery after trying for 5 years and failing to understand Zen, asked the master before he left, "Master, what advice can you give me that will help me in the outside world?" And the master replied. So, Elaine, if you can read that one, please.
"I am grateful for this and have no complaints whatsoever." Oh, sorry, there's the top bit as well, isn't there? "Whatever you are, whatever the situation is, say just this one thing and mean it. I am grateful for this and have no complaints whatsoever.
Yeah, so great advice. Wherever you go, whatever the situation is, just say one thing and really mean it. I'm grateful for this and have no complaints whatsoever. Very simple idea, but not easy to practice because life challenges us and then we tend to complain. Yeah, why is this happening to me? Why am I the unlucky one? Why is it so challenging for me? Why has this difficulty presented itself? You see the image there of this lady, obviously on some kind of retreat because she's got this face paint on in meditation, and this beetle is crawling over her mouth, and she's not bothered. I thought it was a good illustration of the point, so I chose the image. So gratitude goes hand in glove with forgiveness or letting go, because you can't be grateful for something apparently negative that happens to you and until you've let go of any grievances you're holding on to and reinterpreted the situation. Otherwise, you're just going to be resentful, right? Gratitude and resentment are opposite. So it's only when you've really let go of a situation that you can understand why you should be grateful to that person for the situation. They and the situation made you aware of another aspect of your ego and helped you to let it go. So taking you one step closer to enlightenment, which, remember, is a state of mind in which only love exists. So it's all good. It's all part of the process of awakening. That's why gratitude is the penultimate step before total forgiveness in the 10-step letting go process. So maybe let's have a look at that quickly. So there you go. Be grateful just before letting go and releasing completely. It's about appreciating the perfection in the situation, saying this is all perfect in its imperfection. It's all okay. It's all meant to happen. It's brought your unconscious guilt, fear, anger, and other egoic emotions that may remain buried in your mind into your awareness. So as you can become aware again of the perfect peace, love, and joy that are your true nature and what you deserve to feel all the time. And then you can be grateful. Okay, well, thank you. You brought this to my awareness. Without this, I wouldn't be aware of it, so I couldn't let it go. So then it remains in my subconscious, and I remain unawakened. So this is the opportunity to let this go and free myself, which is a cause for gratitude and the precursor to this full letting go and release, and saying I'm completely forgiven and released completely. Let go and release completely. Yeah, so all good, really. That's what gratitude is an essential part of forgiveness. And how do you know you're forgiven is when you can really be grateful for that situation in your heart. Okay, so my greatest challenge, my greatest trauma is actually a situation that I'm not grateful for. Well, then you've really forgiven it. If there's still a resistance and you're still angry, there's still resentment and you're not grateful, then you haven't truly forgiven, and you need to go back to step one and work through the process. Till in your heart of hearts, you can really feel that gratitude. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So a little bit, this was a good session actually. In this recorded discussion, Bakang, you're still with us actually on our program. He might join us a couple of times this month. Mentioned a story about Greg Braden, who's an American spiritual teacher who went with a Native American friend of his to pray for rain in the middle of a long drought. His friend called him up and said, hey, there's been this long-standing drought in New Mexico. We're going to go pray for rain. You want to come join us? He said, yeah, absolutely. I'm up for that. So they hiked to an ancient stone circle that was sacred to the Indian people of his friend. His friend was Indian. And his friend stepped into the stone circle, gave thanks for the rain, while vividly imagining he was experiencing the sensations of rain falling and mud under his feet. Now, Greg Bray didn't know what he's doing. He thought he was going to do some elaborate ceremony. His friend just stepped in, spent a couple of minutes just quietly, and he said, okay, we're done. And he's like, really? Okay, I thought we were going to do a bit more than that, given we've hiked for hours to get here. But he said, no, I'm done. And then that evening, it started to rain very heavily, and the drought was broken. In fact, it didn't just rain, it flooded. And he phoned up his friend and said, what's going on? He said, yeah, well, that part I haven't quite got right. How much? I just pray for rain and then it just pours. But the synchronicity of that, the coincidence of that it's extraordinary, because they hadn't rained for years. They do the ceremony, and then that same evening, less than 24 hours later, it rains. There's got to be something to it. So you can listen to it, watch the video. Greg Braden, it's just 5 minutes, quite short, where he describes this whole experience. And then we discussed how the most powerful prayer is feeling positive emotions like gratitude now. It's not the prayer of wanting, saying, please give me this because I'm lacking and now I want this to be happy. That's not a very powerful prayer at all. The most powerful prayer is just being grateful now, giving thanks for what hasn't happened yet in time, although it already happened. As though it had already happened, yeah? So you give gratitude and thanks as though, okay, well, this is a done deal. This has already happened. And by doing that, you collapse time. This profoundly affects the quantum field, which is just projected thoughts and emotions. And this field is what creates our apparent reality in time and space. So out of the quantum field comes the manifest effects, which we call life in this world. So if we can really influence the quantum field, as this guy did in the prayer, he went in, and I believe these stone circles, because so much spiritual activity has happened, they were sacred sites. There is kind of a portal, if you like, into the etheric, into mind and another level of mind or consciousness that those stone circles create. And so he's in the stone circle. It's like an amplifier into the quantum field. That's what I would call it. And it amplifies his intention so that intention, which may not have had that effect if he just done it anywhere, is amplified in the stone circle. And also remember, they've had to go to quite a lot of trouble to get there. So this isn't just, oh, well, I'll just stand around on a pavement somewhere in a city and do it. It's like, no, they've had to make something of it. And they've really had to give it due time and energy and attention by setting the intention and then hiking for hours to get there, and then going into the stone circle. So it's all about the space you give this intention. And that's what they did. They gave it space. They went into the sacred place, which would because many intentions have been set like this in the past. This is a receptive field. In the quantum field is like a portal where this becomes very receptive to these kinds of intentions or prayers. And that's exactly what happened. And then he goes and he gives thanks for it as though it's already happened by just experiencing the sensations of rain falling in mud under his feet as though it's already happening. And so now instead of saying, well, please, God, Spirit, whatever, will you bring rain? And that just affirms that there is no rain, the scarcity and the lack. You're saying, no, the true prayer is just affirm that it's already there, and really believe that by visualizing it so completely that it programs the quantum field. It gives it that instruction to then deliver that. And then by strange, miraculous means we can't really understand, that goes into the quantum field and it starts to influence the weather patterns on a macro scale. And then suddenly rain comes down because of that intention. So pretty amazing, really. What happened in this. And then there's a couple of other fairly interesting and quite amazing studies that were done on particularly around peace. So I think I mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. An experiment was done by a large group of advanced meditators, transcendental meditators, about 4,000 of them, who convened in Washington, D.C. In the summer of 1993. And they, given previous research that had been done, they were of the opinion that crime rate should go down by about 25% based on these previous studies. So they decided they were going to test this. They got the police department involved. They said, please, can you give us the crime stats before last year and an average on year for this period? And then, afterwards, they were there for 3 weeks or something. During that 3-week period, what happened? And the rate of violent crime dropped by 25%, which is very statistically significant. 25% doesn't just happen randomly. That's incredibly statistically significant. And there was no explanation for it other than, that what was different that year was that there was this group of advanced meditators in Washington, D.C., meditating for hours a day, every day. And that was the only thing that had changed compared with previous years. So removing all the other factors, this then really seems to be the factor that did it. The meditation created a quantum field of peace, which spread out throughout Washington, D.C., and helped them reduce the rate of violent crime because people weren't as ready and willing to go out and commit violent crime. People were maybe more just the whole consciousness of the city changes, and then a lot of things that could have and should have happened just didn't happen. Then there was also a peace intention experiment by a lady called Lynn McTaggart in 2009, I think it was, that helped end the civil war in Sri Lanka. So that at that point, there'd been a civil war ongoing for many years, and the peace intention experiment chose that war because it wasn't most of the people in this experiment weren't in Sri Lanka and weren't affected by it, so they could just be objective. And they met, I think, every day for an hour, and they prayed on this and they meditated for this to happen. That they were sending priests to this area, and it helped end the civil war. So immediately the week after this experiment, what happened was an increase in the fighting. So the government forces, it was government versus rebels. Government forces went on a major offensive, and they started to make headway. And then you're like, okay, well, hang on, the fighting's getting worse, not better. But that was temporary. That was the beginning of the end of the war. And then 9 months later, in May 2010, the war finally ended. A truce was signed, some kind of treaty was signed, and law and order was restored, and the war was over. But it changed the week after they did the peace intention experiment. Now, is that accidental, or is that directly connected to the work they did? The tension for peace in that region brought about exactly the situation that needed to happen. Was the government troops did need to go on the offensive, and they need to turn the tide and start winning this in order to restore peace. So that was necessary. Although the result wasn't immediate peace, in the end they got there. 9 months later, there was peace in the country, and they haven't had a civil war since. So yeah, very interesting experiments, both of those, which directly prove that our thoughts do have an effect on the external world, as is shown here in this diagram very clearly in the art of letting go. To integral model. It frames it very well. It says there's the interior dimension and there's the exterior, and they affect each other, right? The one affects the other. So your subjective thoughts, emotions, memories, states of minds, perceptions, immediate sensations then affect the world. They affect your individual body, your behavior. They also affect, on a quantum level, if collective do this, they affect the values and the meanings and the culture of whatever the group is. So in this case, it was Washington, D.C. There were enough people doing this conscious work to try and make a difference. And then that reflects in the external world as part of a system. Okay, well, now, we measure crime in the city and it's dropped 25%. We have no idea why. We'll just look to this quadrant to understand why. Okay, is that clear? Mm.
Yeah.
A good,
Yeah.
good session to listen to, Power of Prayer. Listen to it if you can. Some good stuff in there. We talked about all of this in more detail. And that leads us into today's live session. Do you have any questions, Kim or Elaine?
Just around, this prayer, because it is
Hmm.
a kind of, it's a manifestation, right? Based on the intention and the energy.
Yeah, well, you're accepting that it's already there. That's the key.
Yes.
So kind of collapsing time. Instead of saying, well, time has to elapse for this to happen, you're saying, no, it's
Yeah.
already here. And you're giving thanks for that as though it is already here, even though in this reality, so-called reality, at this point in time, it's not. But if you really go there in faith, then you collapse the timeline. And you start to actually reduce the need for time. Yeshua addresses this and says, the miracle is the only device you have at your disposal for controlling time. Because it can collapse time, it can control time. Let's go to the timeline of consciousness, might be useful to see. Timeline, there you go. So if right here, right now, let's say you just lost your job and money's tight, and instead of choosing to worry about it, as most people do, and go, oh, but I don't have any money, and how am I going to cope in the future? What's going to happen when money's gone? What if I can't get another job? And on and on it goes. And now you're dwelling in the future, and you're not fully present. You're not enjoying your life. Instead of that, you're just going to let it go. So, okay, I'm letting go of all this. I'm just going into the present moment and giving thanks for what already is. There's already abundance here now, right? Right now, I'm fine, and that state of abundance of being fine is here, and you give thanks for that. And now, instead of being in the future and worrying about it and miscreating that reality, you stay rooted in the present moment, which is the only time there really is. Okay, does that make sense on the timeline and what he's saying here?
I want to apply it to you now. So I'm writing on Sunday, and I want to feel. So I'm expressing a desire now, right? But in terms of enjoyment, also I want to feel good and not be in pain. So, like, say, going up the hills. So I feel like maybe I haven't done as much training as I need to get on the bike tonight, but maybe again, it's all in the mind and the energy and the intention. So if I'm already going to that state of, I feel strong, I've got lots of energy, I've got, I can power through that. I enjoy it, I'm smiling and all that, and I just keep on that, whether I've done enough training or not.
Yeah.
But can
it's more about the mindset. It's about the mindset, and if you can go into when you're thinking about it, go into the state now. So feel that joy. Like, okay, so it's not any time in the future. Right now, I'm experiencing the power, the strength, the joy of the experience right now, as in this moment. And then you're kind of coding that into the quantum field. Like, okay, so this is what I'm choosing to experience, and it collapses time. So he says miracles are the only device at your immediate disposal for controlling time, because you collapse the need for time. If you're always in the future, you're always looking ahead, you're not collapsing time, you're perpetuating time. So saying, no, don't do that. Instead of waiting to experience that apparent satisfaction now, collapse it and experience it. Yeah. That makes sense. So experience it here, and you already have that state. You already have this. Any positive experience is a derivative of pure formless awareness of perfect love, whatever you call it. So you're already in that state. You claim it, and now you're setting that as your intention by your state of mind that you've chosen for the future, because you're already in that state of mind, and that somehow reprograms the whole equation of your experience in the race and the whole race for everyone, and gives you a different experience, which will come in future, but you've actually created that experience right here, right now, by being in this awakened state right now. Does that make sense? So you
It does. And I've seen it with
I'm here now,
affirmations
right?
as
I'm
well.
on the
They've
bike
made them
now.
present tense. Instead of saying I will, you say I am. I've seen
Yeah,
that with
yeah,
affirmation. I'll experience that with affirmations as well, where
yeah.
it's present tense. Yeah.
It's bringing it to the present moment, which collapses time. Ultimately, the timeline is illusory, right? It's only ever now. That's the only truth. It's only ever now. It's always been the now. There really isn't this illusory timeline. We don't have the future just stretching before us. In eternity, which is here, there is no past or future. There's only now.
Mm.
So I hope that helps in the next couple of days in preparation. You just go into doesn't have to be long, a few minutes. Just go into a little visualization. Imagine you're on the bike and then riding the race, and then feel right then in the moment what you're feeling. Feel the connection, feel the joy, feel everything. Feel, yeah, okay, maybe there's a challenge, but I'm just going to dig in and I'm going to overcome that challenge. You can do that as well. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
of course it's going to go well because your mindset is in the right space.
Thank you, Jono. When we're
Yeah.
practicing tonight, I'm going to be on a stationary bike, so I'll be able to close my eyes and do a bit of that, even when it's easy.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to feel
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Practice the next few days, just a few minutes every day,
Mm.
just really going into
Mm.
imagine you're there on your bike and you actually experience those feelings. If it's joy, if it's, connection with your friend, other people in the race, if it's feeling really strong rather than daunted, you actually experience the feelings. And that's the best preparation you can do.
Okay. Thank you.
Only a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. So that brings us to our live session and the lesson. Have you got time to do the lesson or you've got to go?
Yeah, I can stay for another 15 minutes. Then, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's do
Yeah.
the lesson then. So yeah, so this one is lesson 10 we're on to. Kim, if you can read that key idea.
My thoughts do not mean anything.
Yeah, so we've already had, if you recall, lesson 4 was these thoughts do not mean anything. They're like the things I think I see here. This one is more direct. This my thoughts don't mean anything. And that's your thoughts about anything, really. Whatever thoughts you're cooking up in your mind, to recognize that they don't mean anything is ultimate liberation. Okay, so my thoughts don't mean anything. Any other thoughts on that? Lane?
Oh,
It's a major
yeah,
exercise. It's a major lesson. My thoughts don't mean anything. Wow, none of my thoughts mean anything. It's a mind-blowing statement
it is.
because we spend our
Yeah.
whole lives making our thoughts mean things. And our whole world's based on the meaning we give to our thoughts. And this is just pulling the plug from that and saying, well, they don't actually mean anything in truth. Okay, so let's read some commentary before we go into the practice. Read the first 3 paragraphs. So let's do Kim, read paragraph 1. Lane can read number 2.
This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware or become aware in the practice periods. The reason the idea is applicable to all of them is that they are not your real thoughts. We have made this distinction before and will do so again. You have no basis for comparison as yet. When you do, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were thoughts do not mean anything. Sorry, what you once believed were your thoughts do not mean anything.
This is the second time.
So
Yeah.
hang on, just pause there.
Oh, yeah.
Let's discuss it. So what's he saying there?
So it applies to everything we think, all our thoughts in our mind. It's not like there's no kind of thoughts that are an exception. Maybe however pure you might think they are. And okay, it's saying here you have no basis for comparison as yet. Maybe it's just because we're in the early stages of the course and the lessons, where to become more, as we go through and practice, it becomes more clear to compare to what is coming from source versus ego. When you do, you'll have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts do not mean anything. So at this stage, we think that the thoughts in our mind, I mean, that's what we know, but in actual fact, that's not real.
Yeah. So the basis for comparison is a state of thoughtless awareness, which very few people have experienced. But when you go into thoughtless awareness, and then you compare that with the world of thought, then you go, well, clearly there's chalk and cheese. It's a very different domain. What if that thoughtless awareness is reality, and the world of thoughts is the unreal? That's what he's proposing. He's saying it starts with questioning thoughts. If you never question the meaning of your thoughts and the reality of your thoughts, you'll never awaken because you just believe they're real.
Yeah.
So this whole process is summarized really in this one lesson, as are some of the other early lessons. It's a summary of the whole thing. My thoughts don't mean anything. Well, if they don't mean anything, why am I getting upset by them? Why am I reacting to them? Why am I doing anything if they don't mean anything? And then the ego says, well, hang on, but you've got to deal with life and there's stuff you've got to do. You've got responsibilities and places to go and things to do and so on. So that's all the world of thought. How are you going to function without thought? And the answer is you're not. You're still going to think. But now you're not believing your thoughts. You're not going, okay, this is ultimate truth and reality. You can use thought as a tool. It's necessary in this world. There's no doubt. To operate in the world, there's got to be some thoughts, but you remove the dysfunctional thoughts. So for most people, it's I'm operating this world, but it's tainted by all these negative emotions. I was showing Elaine that we went into the map of consciousness earlier. So we get caught up in guilt and shame and apathy and grief and fear, desire, anger, pride, you know, all this negative stuff. And that's a large part of what we think and what we experience. So we're not just functionally, practically living, we're in one of these negative emotional states a lot of the time, and that causes us various emotions that aren't very pleasant. Anxiety or regret or despair, blame, hating, scorn, and so on. And all of that, all of these thoughts and emotions are a denial of the truth of who we are, the ineffable pure consciousness or pure awareness. And that's all the ego is trying to do, is through these thoughts and emotions to deny the truth of who we are. So we have to start questioning this whole domain, saying, well, if none of my thoughts are real, then what am I really fearing? What am I desiring? What am I angry about? What am I proud about? What am I grief-stricken over? Why am I apathetic? Why do I feel guilt and shame? I don't need to, because none of these thoughts mean anything. You know, it does away with the whole thing. It's just like a complete pulling the plug, because there's always thought involved at any of these levels. So it is actually the complete way out of the dream. No, you know, my thoughts just don't mean anything, and I'm not going to give them any meaning. I'm not going to react to them. I'm not going to judge them. That doesn't mean I can't think at all, but it means that I've removed the dysfunctional ones. So yeah, you know, I've got an appointment, I've got to go somewhere, I've got to be somewhere, I've got to be at work, I've got to pay a bill. I can do all of that, but it doesn't have all of this negative, dysfunctional quality anymore, because I've corrected my mind by doing these kinds of mind training exercises and reminding myself that my thoughts don't really mean anything. And so I start removing the meaning that they have. So I think these thoughts, the practical thoughts of, okay, well, I've got to do this and this, but I'm not in psychological time. I'm not stressing over what's going to happen. I'm not in fear. None of these dysfunctional states exist anymore, and I just do it. All right, so now comes the time, and I need to, whatever it is I need to do, maybe it's an appointment I've got tomorrow, and I need to put that in my diary, and I need to do a bit of research on where it is. So I go and look on Google Maps, and I find out where it is, and I need to enter it in my diary, and I need to arrange my day accordingly. So, but then I'm present with what I'm doing. There's no anxiety around it. The fear, the guilt, the desire, the anger, the pride, grief, apathy, despair, and so on. All of this drops away. And I can just do it. The Nike, just do it. Because I'm now guided by this awareness that is not identified with these kinds of thoughts. That's above and beyond them. And that's how I start shifting myself into this higher awareness. Okay, so let's go back to paragraph 2. Elaine, if you can read that. This is the second time we've used this kind of idea.
This is the second time we have used this kind of idea. The form is only slightly different. This time the idea is introduced with my thoughts instead of these thoughts, and no link is made overtly with the things around you. The emphasis now on the lack of reality of what you think you think. So it's just another kind of idea of looking at the thoughts in quote marks, or my thoughts instead of these thoughts.
Yeah, so it's really taking ownership of them, saying, okay, so these are my thoughts, and I'm not making any connection with the things around you. So in the first lesson 4, it was connecting the internal with the external. So if you look at actually integral model, there we go. You look at the integral model, shows it quite well. So this one is purely internal. It's the individual interior upper left quadrant of the model, I, subjective, just really addressing the domain of thought. So he's saying this is where we are for this lesson. Lesson number 4 dealt with this quadrant, but also dealt with the external world, and said these thoughts internally are like the things I think I see outside of me. So that is the exterior individual, my perception of the world, whatever I see, whatever I feel, touch, taste, and perceive. It's my seemingly external reality, and it's saying, well, the thoughts internally are like the things that I think I see, unreal. They don't mean anything. This one, he's saying, let's just focus on the internal. So he's starting to shift us. The reason why I didn't do that straight away is because we're still very attached to the external world. Now he's starting to shift us and say, okay, so instead of playing in this world, you're going to start putting more and more attention on this world. And this lesson is just about this world. Let's just observe your thoughts and start to become aware of your thoughts, and that none of them really mean anything, which lets go of a whole lot of dysfunctional, negative thoughts that happen at the lower levels of body identification, mind identification. You start moving up and out of these levels, ultimately to transcend the need for levels, to transcend the ego entirely and go into pure form of awareness of perfect love. That's the ultimate destination. While you're here, it's about letting go of the lower levels by saying, these thoughts at the lower levels don't mean anything. I can let them go. And when I do that, I bump up a level. As soon as you genuinely let go, you go up a notch or two in one of these circles. Now at that higher frequency level, if you want to call it, then a different reality tends to manifest. You're at a higher frequency, you're holding that frequency, something different happens in the external world, and the Course calls that a miracle. Okay, so you change internally, something happens externally to show you that, yes, your change actually had an effect. And so you learn from that process, and that feedback loop is called a miracle in A Course in Miracles. Okay, so that's where we're at, and the diagram's helpful to just establish where we're at. Okay, so he's bringing us in this lesson into interior individual upper left quadrant. This is what we're dealing with. We're not doing any of the other 3 quadrants. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's carry on with number 3. Aspect of the correction process. Kim, if you can read that.
This aspect of the correction process began with the idea that the thoughts of which you are aware are meaningless, outside rather than within. Then stress their past rather than their present status. Now we are emphasizing that the presence of these thoughts means that you are not thinking. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really a blank. To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. As such, it is the prerequisite for vision.
Okay. Thoughts on that? What's he saying there?
So before, it's like you show in the diagram, these are seemingly more external, a bit more extractive, but yeah, it's emphasizing that we need to take ownership, and it's also, okay, it says here, and then stress their past rather than their present status. But these thoughts are, within us. But they're actually not real. It's because they're not real, they're meaningless, and they really are blank. So I have to say, when reading the message today, with the illustration, you show this blankness in the head. That did strike me. that actually we need to we perceive them rather, if they're meaningless, it's a nothing. It's literally blank. And that's a step towards vision, is in, well, if they're meaningless and blank, then what is, there is something else that's real. So I think we have this, I mean, we're so full of thoughts. I mean, it's like, it feels so like complex and all over the place, and you know, it can maybe get overwhelmed, or you know, like it feels so full, but in actual fact it's empty. That struck me today when I was reading this, and also looking at that illustration today.
It's a complete transformation, a complete radical shift in your understanding of the world. This one statement, because we're so identified with our thoughts and the reality that those thoughts seem to construct for us, that we've forgotten that it doesn't mean anything. And in a simple statement, a few words, he's just going, well, it doesn't mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. If you can recognize that, then you can be free of them. When you start understanding this, you're okay, well, I seem to be thinking about this and got this problem or this situation arising, as we do. But these thoughts don't really mean anything. So why am I dwelling on them? Why am I investing all this time and emotional energy in what doesn't mean anything? It doesn't make sense to do that. And then we start detaching from them and devaluing them, saying, okay, well, these thoughts don't really mean anything. So I'm not actually going to dwell in them. I'm not going to, obsessively think them, because they don't mean anything. And so you profoundly change your relationship to those thoughts through this idea. You see that?
Yeah.
The
Although
key to recognize that they're meaningless.
I need to ask the question around what we were talking about earlier in terms of the intent. I don't know, the setting an intention, like the rain, right? The prayer.
Yeah.
Do you consider that a thought, or is that you're imagining and visualizing as a feeling? Like that won't have meaning either. Or will it? I don't know. Is it because it's maybe
ultimately,
I don't know. Just trying to wrap my head around that.
Ultimately, that thought isn't meaningful, because it's not dealing in pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's dealing in this domain where things like rain and lack of rain, but it's a very useful exercise in starting to understand how the mind works, which is why it was valuable.
And maybe it's the change in perception, correcting perception. Is it because of that as well?
Yeah, it's a process of changing one's mind. You're praying for rain. You're saying, really, right here, right now. Think about what's happening. Right here, right now is all that's real. So my current thoughts and experience, he did more than just think. He had a whole experience. You could call that experience thought, but there's emotion, there's feeling. He felt himself actually feeling the mud under his toes and the rain on his skin. That whole thought feeling, we'll call it, experienced right now, means that we focusing fully on the present. We letting go of the past and the future in that moment. And we bring our mind into present moment awareness, which is a step closer to the truth, right? In pure formless awareness of perfect love, there is only that awareness right here, right now. So whenever you start going out of past and future and bringing yourself into the present moment, as that prayer did, it's a step in the right direction. And as you go more and more into the right direction, more and more power gets unlocked, which is why the prayer worked. But ultimately, once you're out of the ladder and you've climbed out of this, let's say if these are steps, and you've transcended the duality of this world, then ultimately that wouldn't be necessary. And that kind of a prayer would be meaningless because there is no need for rain. There's no world. There's no rain. None of that is meaningful or necessary. But at a lower level, like let's say Greg Braden, and he's pretty advanced, but he obviously there was learning for him. He was like, oh, okay, I've just learned something, and that's helped me shift from this level to maybe a higher level. And the miracle has strengthened my faith in the power of the mind. And so it's part of his journey and his friend's journey of awakening. They've shifted one or two levels up and away from the attachment to the body and limited awareness of the ego, and more in the direction of what's infinite and eternal and expansive. And so it's a success. It's a miracle and necessary on their journey. But ultimately, those thoughts were still illusory because there is no dream world, right? Nothing in a dream world is real. So you're thinking about a dream world, you're perceiving it's there. None of that's real. That's what Yeshua's telling us. You're just caught up in a dream world. Okay. Does that answer your question? Hope so.
Yeah. More or less, I think, say you bring it to present, you're feeling the presence, or you feeling the feelings as though in the present, as the present state.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it doesn't matter what's happening externally, right? Maybe that's part of the lesson. It doesn't, this the first thing,
Yeah.
glass doesn't mean anything. So whatever's happening externally doesn't mean anything. So there's that. And then, but you're in that you're feeling that present state as though it is happening. But it's actually, I think the what I'm trying to get my head around is, and I know it's my head, is that, well, I suppose you're going into another, it's just, you're going into the presence of that feeling, like you do when you say I'm love, or yeah.
And you're fully present in that.
Seems
You're
like
not in the
as
past or
though
the future.
you bring the past into the you bring the future into you bring the actual physical part and the future into the present by using your feelings. But it's thought as well. It's thought and feelings. It's thought which results in the feeling of it actually happening.
Yeah, it's both. And then in that moment, you're fully present and you're fully aware in the moment. So although that, ultimately that thought emotion is real, do you understand what you've done? You've brought yourself into the present moment, which is a lot closer to the truth, which is pure formless awareness of perfect love. So it's a step in the right direction, which is why it's powerful, why it releases power and things, miracles like that rain happen, because you're getting closer to ultimate power, and the truth then shows itself and then manifests into this world.
Thank you, Jono.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just when you actually do it, so you got a great opportunity with the race coming up. If you spend the next few days, just spend 5 minutes a day going into that state. Okay, so I'm on my bike and I'm feeling the pedals under my feet and I'm riding. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? Just really go into it and feel it, and feel the joy, feel the power, feel the strength, feel all of it. And you are then doing the most powerful preparation for the race that you can possibly do. At this point, more training is probably not going to help you very much. So it's more about the mental preparation. So get yourself in the mind.
Yeah. So should I not get on the bike tonight?
Well,
I feel like I'm
Is it really going to make any difference? I'll tell you a story
It's time in the
about
saddle, I say, and getting the
yeah, I know.
kilometers out.
Is that coming? Ask yourself, is that just coming out of fear? If you're getting on the bike because you're feeling guilty or
Yeah,
fearful,
that's
then it's not the
yeah. I don't know. I actually, you know what? Okay, sorry, not to. I don't want to dwell on this long. My thinking, and this how I feel is, still want to get on the bike, but I'm not. I'm going to imagine that I'm doing the race in the way that you're talking about, but actually physically riding for some time. Like,
bike rider. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
And then
stationary bike. Like,
it's a yeah, yeah. And it's not
so,
really about the physical training, because that's not going to make much
yeah,
difference at this point. It's more
I'm not going
about
to push
getting
this,
into the
but
mode.
it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Get into the
but
experience.
I'm,
Go, okay.
so maybe,
I'm
yeah, but it'll be my last time. I mean, today would have been my
imagining
last
my
day
bed.
to do it. Yeah, like I'm talking about the physical one.
Yeah,
It's just I'm trying
yeah.
to add more kilometers on, but maybe I'm not less
Yeah,
concerned
that's
about
just your
how much
mind.
I'm doing.
That's just your mind
Yeah,
stressing. I'll give you
yeah,
a story which will hopefully help you to kind of lay your mind to rest. So there was this triathlete who took his girlfriend to New Zealand. He was doing the Ironman, yeah? You know what the Ironman is. So it's a marathon and 100K bike ride and a 3 mile swim or something like that. I mean, ridiculous, crazy event, but people do it. So he's
yeah.
out there, and then his girlfriend, who'd done a couple of sort of more minor triathlons, was like, "Oh well, why don't I enter? I'm here. I wasn't planning to, but I'll just enter the women's race and I'll have a go." Very, she hadn't really trained very much. I mean, she was fit, but she hadn't done anything like the training you're supposed to do. But she just went for it, and she did an amazing time. She did it in 11 hours, and she had a great experience, and she really felt good. And then she was like, "Oh wow, I should do more of this." And everyone's like, "Oh, you should definitely. You could be really good. Just train harder." And she did that. And you know what? She never beat her time again. Her first time was her best time ever. Isn't that interesting?
Mm.
Because she was fresh physically, so she wasn't fatigued and tired by all this training. Mentally, she was just like, "Hey, yeah, I'll give it a go. There's no fear. I'm just in the moment. Let's go give it a crack and enjoy it." So she was mentally and physically in the right, fresh and in the right state of mind, and her performance reflected that. And then she was like, "Oh, now once you've done it once, now she's got an expectation, hasn't she? Oh, I did it in 11 hours. I want to do it in a quicker time now. I've got to get it down to 10 hours. So I've got to train harder to get it down to 10 hours. And now I'm into the future and I'm into expectation and I'm going out of the flow and out of the zone. And I'm stressing my mind and I'm stressing my body because I'm overtraining. And then I arrive and I'm in a different frame of mind and I'm in a different physical and mental condition that's actually not very optimal. And so my time isn't as good. And so it's not about the amount of training you do, even for something like the Ironman. She was way undertrained. By the way, there was a Bruce Fordyce, the great comrades runner. It's like you want to be undertrained for comrades, undertrained and overweight. Slightly, obviously, like not massively overweight, but
Right.
a couple of kilograms overweight and a little bit undertrained, so that you've got some juice in the tank, right? You've got something that you can draw on. Your reserves are still there. You haven't used up all your reserves with all the training that you're doing. So if you're going into a little bit underprepared and undertrained, it's probably good. You're in a good space. Just trust.
Suppose
It's about
it's
trusting.
going
Huh?
very undertrained. Some
Yeah,
going
but
very undertrained and they suffer more. I just want to enjoy it. That's my main.
yeah, but it's just there's no reason why you shouldn't, because it's not primarily physical. It's about the mind. And the mind's in the right space and you get into the zone, as they call it, and you're in the flow, it'll go fine. And if you go out of the flow and your mind's in the wrong space, it won't. So it's more about the mental state. And the body follows the mind, yeah? So you'll be fine. Just prepare yourself mentally for it. That's the best thing you can do at this moment, by getting into the present moment. Experience the joy. It's supposed to be a joyful experience. Just experience it. Go, yeah, I'm really actually enjoying this. Right now,
Mm.
you're smiling away as you're cycling, you're enjoying it. You're imagining, you're
Yeah.
chatting to your friend. There's fresh air and there's sunshine, and you chatting to other cyclists, and you're just enjoying the whole experience, and just really get into that. Because that's really what it's about. It's not about the time, the fear. Oh, but I don't want to suffer. I don't want the pain. Just ignore all that and get into the joy in the moment, and that's the best preparation you can do. And if you do that the next couple of days, it's the best preparation you can possibly do to get yourself into that zone and into that state on the rest day. A state where you can really, when you enjoy, you will enjoy it. It's what's called enjoyment. You're in a state of joy. And just let go of the fear. If the fear arises, that's just the ego going, oh, but Kim, you've been a naughty girl. You haven't trained hard enough. You've got to suffer. And that's just the thought system of sacrifice and guilt, isn't it? So you
Yeah.
got to just look at that and say, well, that's just ridiculous. I don't have to suffer. Like, why is the ego, the ego is just nonsense. Why can't I just experience joy and it'd be a great experience? Why do I have to suffer? There's no reason for me to suffer. The whole point of the exercise is to do it so I enjoy it, not to suffer. The ego's like, oh, no, 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 but it can't be that good. You got to suffer. So when that voice comes up, just notice it and go, no, I'm not listening to that. I'm just going to let it go and go back into the joy. And that's your best possible preparation for the race, choosing joy over fear and pain.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So that leads us into the actual practice. Do you want to stay for that? Kim, I'll do a meditation quickly for about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to practice this, and then we'll probably close the session on that. Len, what's your timing like? Do you need to go at like opposite date or?
Yeah, just that would be nice to do the meditation and then to
Yeah.
close.
Close
Yeah.
it. Okay. So you want to stay, Kim? That's cool. Otherwise, feel free to go.
Okay. I'll stay.
All right. So I'll just mute both of you. There we go. Mute. Sorry, I muted you. You mute yourself. So just making yourself comfortable. Sitting with your feet shoulder width apart. Your back straight. You cup your hands on your lap. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. You clench your sphincter muscle, you lock the energy in. Draw the energy up your spine into your heart center. Draw it up into the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale. So just repeat today's idea quite slowly to yourself to start the exercise. My thoughts do not mean anything. And then add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. So you're just going to search your mind, all the thoughts that are available to you, just breathing in again, to invite these thoughts to come into your awareness. You're not going to select them, you're not going to judge them. Try to avoid classifying them in any way. And you could imagine that you're just watching a weird procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. Breathing in again. As each thought crosses your mind, say to yourself, my thought about whoever it is, if it features a person or people, whatever it is, maybe you're thinking about a situation, a circumstance, a possible event. My thought about whatever or whoever doesn't mean anything. Thought about whatever does not mean anything. And you just exhale, blow it out. Just let it all go. Release it into the nothingness. It really is. Imagine you blowing away that thought like a dark cloud or black smoke. Again, search your mind, breathing in again. So any thought that distresses you at all, fear thought like, oh, what's going to go, what's going to be like in the race? Will I suffer? Kim, that's could be one of yours. I thought about suffering in the race. Doesn't mean anything. Just breathe in on that. Just really look at that thought. So you kind of have risen above it and you just observe. Thought about whatever doesn't mean anything. Blow it all away as you exhale. The sense of letting go, releasing that thought with the breath helps you visualize it as a dark cloud or black smoke. It's just leaving you. It's going, going, gone. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And then just repeat. Do slowly to yourself. My thoughts do not mean anything. And add in that this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. And then sink into a very peaceful, restful state. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, observe the breath flowing into your nostrils and out of your nostrils. Allow yourself to go into thoughtless awareness. And what happens when all thoughts stop? Just dwell in that thoughtless awareness. For a while, for a few moments. Sinking deeper and deeper to the still, calm, quiet, thoughtful, thoughtless awareness. With every breath, just going deeper and deeper into this awareness. When thoughts do arise to disturb this deep, peaceful awareness, and just notice them. Just breathing in, breathing out. Remind yourself that my thought about whoever or whatever it is doesn't mean anything. Blow them away with the breeze of your breath, dark clouds or black smoke, and just rest in the still, calm, quiet, empty, spacious awareness. Pure formless awareness, perfect love, we call it. Just rest in this being for a couple of minutes of deep silence. Just gently coming back now from this deep state into an awareness of your body, the breath and the senses, and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile, scan your mind. Notice any thoughts again. If there's any thoughts knocking around there. I just saw that my thought about whoever or whatever it is doesn't mean anything. Thought about this person, this place, this situation, this event, this circumstance, this fear, this worry, this desire, this anxiety, this whatever it is, does not mean anything. Just blow it away. And breeze of your breath. To nothingness that it really is. Notice on the count of 2 how the air flows out. Maybe the energy that you raised up into your crown just subsides back down, front channel to your stomach, your groin. Using the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're feeling. Your body, your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state. State of mind without illusions, in which only the truth is true. And I anchor this state in to your mind, your awareness. Intention to stay here for the rest of the evening. And use today's lesson to just to top you up and help you store your mind into this state. Any intrusive thoughts come in, just remind yourself that my thought about whoever, whatever does not mean anything. Because my thoughts do not mean anything. And finally say this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe, which is true. Fix out on the truth of that, blowing it all out, letting go completely. And now on the count of 3, open your eyes, just take a minute just to look around, scanning the area around in this very calm, objective way. If any thoughts arise as you're looking around, remind yourself of my thoughts about whatever the object is. Maybe it triggers thoughts about a person or situation. Does not mean anything. Thought about whatever doesn't mean anything. Notice how peaceful and calm and restful you feel when you think that thought. You know this is the truth. Anchor the state in. So you stay here for the rest of the evening and on into tomorrow. And the rest of your week. Use the lesson to top you up if you need to. Store your mind to the state and let go of any negative thoughts that come into your mind, and that should keep you in a state of thoughtless awareness, which is very peaceful. And that's what I wish for you, a very peaceful evening. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and the session.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Jono.
you. Yeah. Thanks, Elaine. Thanks, Kim, for joining. And yeah, Kim, we'll see you. Good luck for I probably won't see you for the race on Sunday, so good luck for it.
Yeah, all the best with
Thank
that.
you. Thank
Be
you.
with you.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing your feedback on it. And then yeah, join us on Monday. We'll do if you can join on Monday, then we'll do the name your game for dawn, which will just take 5-10 minutes or something like that. And then you can share your experience. And yeah, so Monday evening from say 8 o'clock your time.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. Go well in the meantime.
Okay.
Thank you.
And remember, next few days, just don't stress about the lack of kilometers. Just go, it's all about that state, right? It's about getting into the joy, really feeling it, going into that present moment when you're on the bike, just to, not a lot, you can do 15, 20 minutes on the bike, just to get into the state. That's the point. It's not about the physical training as much as the state of mind. And you're putting yourself into that state for the race. You're rehearsing the state, and it's much more likely to happen then. And if you're in the state of joy and flow, then the race will be a good experience. So yeah, I look forward to hearing about it on Monday.
Thank you. Thank you. Going to
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
the best there, Kim. Good night.
Ride well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jono. Thanks.
That's
Bye.
great.
Bye.
Yeah,
Namaste.
Elaine, if you want to join tomorrow, we could do a session tomorrow
Yeah. The only
afternoon.
thing is my friend, it's her last day. So I'm going to be taking it to the forest. So I'm not sure
Right.
what time. So probably it would
Do
be
you want to
the
do
evening.
Friday instead?
Or
Should we do
Friday, yes. Yeah, because then she's away in the morning. So
Yeah.
I'll have a little bit
Yeah.
more leeway. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do Friday afternoon. Yeah.
Friday
Say 2 o'clock.
afternoon. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
See you then.
See you then. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Bye.
Namaste.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, so that is a wrap for today. Thank you to Kim and Elaine for joining. If you enjoyed the session, then why not subscribe to the channel? Be notified whenever we go live, which is 3 or 4 times a week. Get this content live or recorded. You can also go to lifebuild.com. You can see that in the background, and you can sign up there to receive a daily inspirational quote and a blog post, and I send out some meditations and invitations to join these live calls, as well as other resources, all freely available. So you can get all of that and join one of these live sessions if you'd like to take a deeper dive. So I hope to connect with you on the inside of the Telegram group. You just need to have Telegram on your mobile device, put in your mobile number, join the group, and you can also subscribe. So hope to catch you on the inside of one of these sessions or the group soon. And thanks for watching or listening. Peace.